Oh, wow, we're live. These mics are hot.
Hello. Yes.
All right.
Live. Oh, yes. Hello, everyone.
Let's go. Camera.
All right.
Selfie game. Sorry.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing? Excited? Yes. So I am super, super thrilled to announce our very special panel. It's called Game On, Inspiring Future Game Designers. And all of us are educators and designers of all different kinds. And we are here to share our stories and strategies for inspiring the next generation of game developers. And our overriding question today is, how do we help our students grow and share their personal stories, their identities, and their lives through games? And so just how awesome is this panel, by the way? Yes, right? It's amazing. So we've got Lien Tran here, Theresa Loong, and Gordon Bellamy. And I am Kat Schrier. Nice to see everyone. If you go to the next slide. So this is me. I am Kat Schrier. I'm the director and professor of games and emerging media at Marist University. I've also been designing games for the last 25 years. Oh my gosh. Almost as long as I've been going to Games for Change. That's awesome. So I've worked at places like the World Health Organization, Scholastic, BrainPop, and Nickelodeon. And I just started a new little venture called Dream Interactive Design, so check us out. Please connect with me, and then I'll hand it over to Lien.
Thank you, Kat. Hi. Oh, no. Yes. Hi. So I'm Lien Tran. I'm an associate professor and currently the chair of game design at DePaul University in Chicago, where I also direct a lab called Matters at Play with a focus on transformational transdisciplinary design, including games, working with subject matter experts in human rights, social justice, and much of my work has, especially where I got started and where I am now, is a lot of immigration-related work. So you can follow my lab and connect with me on LinkedIn.
Oh, and next we have Gordon.
Oh, hi. Okay, I'm Gordon. I'm a professor at USC. I also lead a nonprofit, Gay Game Professionals. But before all that, I'm completely in my feelings because me and Tree went to summer camp together. So we were high-achieving young people. We were the next generation of game designers. And now, literally almost 40 years later, we are on stage together doing a panel about it. Yeah, we are. And also, because I see some from our scholars programs, I see some of my scholars actually in the crowd. I see you, Isaac and Joseph, and my USC students. I see you, right? And so I'm really in the moment right now. This is we're talking about it, but we're also being about it right now. And so just thank you for making time, because this is this is super real to be up here. So, which brings me to the illustrious Theresa Loong.
Hi, so I'm Theresa Loong, and my nickname, as Gordon has told you, is Tree, like a palm tree. So I am a multi-hyphenate like many of you. I am both a professor. I teach a class here at Parsons. So thank you for coming to the event here. We're happy to have you. And I'm also a documentary filmmaker and a game maker. So I have a company called Form 360, and I'm also here today, as we all are, to kind of talk about something called Game On. It's a documentary about Brenda Romero, who is a game designer of board and video games. And we can tell you more about that during the session today.
Next slide.
So here's a little bit about Brenda. One second. Audio check, please.
We've worked on a lot of different games. We've worked on Dungeons & Dragons, Ghost Recon, John created Doom, Doom 2, Quake. We've made a bunch of games, and we've been making them for 36 years now.
He's the absolute love of my life. I think we'd be horrible spouses for other people.
I've been asked more than I can even imagine, having ever been asked, what it's like to be a woman in the game industry. You can't take the experience of one and say that that's everybody. Is there definitely a disparity in the industry? Yes.
I would like you to fix it.
Yeah.
So it gets put to bed.
So between John and I, we have 6 kids. Of them, 3 of the 4 that are here are pretty hardcore gamers.
This is my kid, this is Mesa. And when she was 7 years old, she came home from school. I asked her, what'd you do today? So she said, we talked about the Middle Passage.
She learned all the buzzwords. The boats came down to Africa, and then that's where they got their slaves, and they go across the ocean, and that's the Middle Passage. And she just paused as if she was just reading the laundry list, and she said, can I play a game, Mommy? I said, sure, but I gave her these pieces. And I made a game on the spot that was about the Middle Passage. So we're going across the ocean, and she's rolling high. And so she was using most of her food. A little past the middle point, she said, Mommy, I don't think we're going to make it. Did this really happen? Coming up with ideas for games is easy. Actually making it come out right when there's 1,000 ways for it to go wrong can be hard, but experience helps. And you surround yourself with people that are smarter than you are, which is why John has me.
That's just a little preview to give you a little idea of
Hey, applause! Let's go!
Some of you already know Brenda. Can I have a show of hands to see who does? And some of you don't, sure. And so the idea that we're talking about today is how principles that she has in her life and how they've kind of impacted us and how, well, you'll see throughout the course of our hour. Thank you. Kat, go ahead.
So for our first question for the panel, well, you know this. It's really hard sometimes to tell our stories and to share our vulnerabilities, whether it's through games or beyond. And so what are some best practices that we have for helping our students to share difficult topics and to tell their own and others' authentic stories through gaming? So I'll hand it over to Lien.
Yes, we'll get started. So it's missing in this clip, but when she talks about the Middle Passage and her daughter explaining what she learned at school, she summarizes it as, it was like a cruise. So it wasn't really explaining the kind of lived experience and the traumatic experience of the Middle Passage. That was kind of removed from what you learn in the classroom. You learn the kind of facts. And when I heard that, that context of it being a cruise, it reminded me of a project I'm working on right now with Full Spectrum Features. I'm working with them on their 3rd installment of cinematic history projects, so on the Reckoning with Redress project. But this is a series of community-based storytelling and short films that are about Japanese American incarceration and the history of that from World War II. And when younger generations of Japanese Americans are here, their relatives talking about their time, they talk about being at camp, and the younger generations at first thought they were talking about summer camp, because this was trauma that they had suppressed and were kind of, kind of minimizing that because they didn't want to kind of experience that. And so through this project, it's actually an intergenerational healing opportunity for there to be representation of this history that is unjust and very difficult history, but it has to be told and remembered so that it, in theory, does not happen again. An interesting time we are in now, the relevance maybe of this type of to remember this history. And so it's really what I love about the work that Full Spectrum has been doing before I joined them as a game designer on this 3rd project is that it's very much community driven. They're talking to people who were incarcerated in the camps, as well as the younger generations, and using that to inform the storytelling that they're doing in these platforms. And you can move to the next slide. And so one of the pitfalls, I think, it's really important. I've been at a bunch of sessions today where people are talking about this necessity for co-design and giving voice to the people who have the lived experience. I don't have this lived experience. I have the skill set to have been working with a lot of subject matter experts over many years on different topics and becoming an expert through the design process. And so I always like to reference tandem transformational game design because this is the process that I've been using even before they had presented in 2016, Alexandra Toe et al. And so what I really want to highlight, though, is that the literature review is really important. So that's like the research, right? If we don't do the research, then we're tapping into our implicit biases or what the stereotypes of the media pumps out. And so it's not just secondary resources like reading what's already been published, but also, again, those firsthand testimony, talking to people with lived experience or, the many generations to also understand, in this case of the Japanese American history, the trauma that the younger generations have kind of experienced, secondhand from those who were incarcerated. So just, literature review is really important, first and second hand. Oh, right. And so I often engage stakeholders in the work. Again, I'm not an expert in these topics, but I work with human rights lawyers and organizations such as the National Homelessness Law Center and Fines and Abuse Justice Center on a set of poor not guilty challenges. And we're using people's stories. Again, I don't have lived experience. I think it's you can tell other people's stories, but you have to engage them. You have to get feedback from them to make sure that it is authentic and represents their lived experience. And in these, I base them on real people's experience, and then also tie them to either video clips or media, like an article, an NPR audio about someone's experience, Celeste, who's been unjustly fined for lack of seatbelt wearing. Yeah.
So I'm always looking for ways to help my students be able to best share their identities through games. And so what I did was I kind of created this little design principle cheat sheet. It's all based on my own research and other people's research on empathy, compassion, and games. And so this is actually a free guide that I created for everybody, including my students, to use for creating games about identity and to also avoid some of those pitfalls, because we can never really fully understand someone else's perspective, but we can get a taste and we can share a story and we can understand difficult and challenging topics if it's designed properly. So this is that guide that you're all welcome to check out. It's online. And I realized this is an older version without the QR code on it, so I apologize. Please email me and I will send you links. But if you go to my website, KarenSchrier.com, it's on there. Just look for Identity Guide, and it's all free and linked there. Gordon.
Oh, it's me. Okay, I'll try to connect it to the middle passage as tastefully as I can. One of the lessons that we're experiencing now, right, by being here at Susanna's conference, by seeing a movie directed by you about Brenda Romero, about the principles in your that you're teaching, is that it's important to have your own boat. Okay, if you get on someone else's boat, it's going where it's going, and it's so important to do that, whether it be as a professor or a department chair, as an ethical leader, to have your own systems so that then you can put the best of your thought in place, like you did in the film. And we saw that quote, which is a very empowered quote from Brenda Romero, but that's only because you edited it and are directing the movie and chose to extract that content to tell her story from her empowered perspective. So for me, the screenshot you see is Discord. And so I teach my courses in Discord for the most part because it democratizes asking questions. And what I find is that like raising your hand to stop a conversation is sort of a dominant narrative thing. It actually isn't a very normal behavior for most people from underestimated populations to do. And it's not a normal behavior for quiet people, for thoughtful people, for people whose gender is not male, for people of color, ... And so by putting questions in Discord, this is one of the ways in which I try to create a setting where more people can be default to even participate in the learning which is taking place. So much in the same way, there's a lot of focus on identifying people by their proper pronouns so they can begin to learn, right? If you label people properly, then they can begin to engage in a conversation. Well, similarly, if you create mechanics by which more people can participate, well, then you create systems for equity from which new forms of leadership, media, practices whole shows, right? Emerge. And I'll just close. So in my life, I've been in games for 30 years. This is the first time I've been on a panel which is majority female. Like, real talk. And no, applaud for it because it's real, right? And their excellence is obvious, okay? But it's just, I feel it's because of the systems that have been created that this can be a default behavior, as it should be, but it's only because Susanna built a boat. So anyway, that's it. That's my thought on that question.
Awesome, thank you. So we're going to move on to the next question, on how do we ensure safety for our students who are possibly being vulnerable and expressing their identities. So we will have a clip in a second, but I would just say briefly, one way that I do that is sharing my name, but also my pronouns, and also asking and encouraging students to share their name and pronouns as well. So already begins with an inclusive environment. And you'd be kind of surprised how often they don't share their names and pronouns. I'm not sure what that's about, but they'll work together and not know each other's names. And I feel like that's just a very scratching the surface of feeling represented and having sharing their identity, being seen. Yeah, so I think we have a clip queued up on this.
If we take a look at Man Running, so Man Running is Navajo, and Man Running speaks Navajo. Hiring one person to voice a diverse cast, for me, just felt super disingenuous. I wanted to make sure that those characters were.
There might be a photo on top of the video, possibly.
We did that. All of the characters
we just check.
are voiced by people like them. So often you're looking at games.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Sorry, our videos were not linked, so we were quickly doing it before, but there might be a issue there.
But while we're waiting, I think to give you some context on why we're showing the clip is because what I've done is, as I'm finishing the film, I have also been prototyping it, right, and showing some clips to different audiences, including junior high and high school students, right, and intergenerational audiences. And so you heard earlier what Lien was talking about in terms of getting people comfortable in the classroom, right? What Gordon and what Kat were talking about. And so in addition, we have been showing clips to see, and then priming and having people advance the conversation. Right?
Navajo, and Man Running speaks Navajo. Hiring one person to voice a diverse cast, for me, just felt super disingenuous. I wanted to make sure that those characters were more than just code deep. So we did that. All of the characters are voiced by people like them. So often you're looking at games that don't say, hey, we see you, we recognize you. And I think it can be hugely problematic considering that games are the primary form of culture among our youth.
We'll see more later on.
Stay tuned.
If we take a look at Man Running, so Man Running is Navajo. If we take
all right, so as we know, it's not the best time in the world right now, right? So entering into a classroom could be kind of anxiety-ridden for students and also for us. I mean, I teach a class called Ethics in Gaming, and actually I taught it on Discord a few times, and the students loved it, right? Because we all just shared memes and we connected through Discord that way. But the question is, well, how do we do it in person when we're looking at each other and we're sharing sometimes very different views about topics? So for my ethics in gaming class, we talk about everything from the ethics of AI in game dev to representations of race and gender and sexuality in games. For instance, we talked about Assassin's Creed Shadows and how Japanese culture was maybe represented accurately or inaccurately or authentically or not authentically. So we really have very diverse views on that, and I really want students to feel comfortable from the moment they step into the classroom and beyond to be able to share those views. And so, oh, by the way, if you want to hear all about my class, Ethics in Games, this book, Teaching the Game, has my syllabus and actually a ton of other really great syllabi in it. So please connect with me and I'll send you the PDF of that book. But if you go to the next slide, so this is like these are images of my classrooms, right? And you could see that the students are all looking at each other, they're connecting, they're making games, they're laughing, they're dressing up in costumes. It's like a silly classroom, right? And one thing that my students always say is that when they enter my classroom, they suddenly don't feel stressed. They feel relaxed. They feel cared for. And to me, that's the most important thing. One thing that I do is like from the start, we're like playing games. I know it sounds like everybody here, we all love games, so of course, but when you think about a classroom, playing games with your students, whether it's Among Us or Exploding Kittens, you're now on an equal, like you're on equal ground from the start, right? And now I'm learning from them, they're learning from me, we're learning together. And so that is a different kind of vibe, right? And if you go to the next slide, I was lucky enough, I just came back from doing a Fulbright in Tunisia, and the first day I said, let's play Exploding Kittens, and they're like, what? And I was like, no, this is the way that we'll connect, and not just me with you, but also all of us together. And on the last day, one of the women I was teaching said, wow, that was, it was transformational, just playing a game together. So simple, right? But it really made a difference in us having that warm, connected culture in the classroom.
So this one is leveraging our work in games, right? As teachers, and how are we bringing ourselves to the classroom, and how are we inspiring future generations? I'm going to play the next clip. We'll see how it goes. Thanks. So you saw the tease to this, right? And now we're going to see like whose hands do these belong to. So Brenda has a daughter named Mesa, and we had heard a bit about Mesa, right? Learning about the middle passage through a game and with her mom, and they also work together now at Romero Games.
I'm a community manager and developer for Romero Games. I've been doing it for about like a year and a half now. And basically I just kind of engage with the community on a daily basis, all hours, kind of always interacting with people and making sure that the company has that personal touch and the kind of image that we want to create. But for all intents and purposes, I'm basically the voice of Romero Games. I feel like for me, it was a part of like personal growth, being able to talk to people the way that I do.
The most successful people in games come in and they create their own space. But what Mesa did is basically said, I want to reboot the Discord server. And so you go from a Discord community that is nothing, literally a full reboot, to a Discord community that has over 5,000 members. We track it every single week, making sure it is a safe space for anybody. Now there can be like playful banter back and forth, right? But we want people, whoever you are, to come in there and feel cool and happy.
It means a lot to me because growing up, I know that there were so many game communities that I didn't feel particularly welcomed, not just as like, as a woman, but also as a person of color and different reasons. Like, I mean, I identify as bisexual, so I really wanted to create a space for everyone to feel welcomed, and I wanted to involve different moderators and different people in our community that were of all backgrounds that would feel passionate about the same things that I do.
So that's to show you, right, we're using and hoping to use some of these clips to encourage dialogue both in the classroom and in other community settings. Now I'll hand this over to Gordon.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, it's a lot. So it's interesting when you see it framed that way, that young person and their power. But the way I think about it is this, is that for those of us who to get some position of authority, right, it's sort of fraught. So, for example, like, when you grade as a professor, you go, what systems am I perpetuating, right? Vis-a-vis grading. It wasn't born of my ownership. It wasn't born on the middle passage. It was born by other systems that weren't designed necessarily to cultivate people of other genders or races, orientations, ... And so how do you create healthier ecosystems, in which we collectively can all thrive together? And so with our nonprofit, we do this. So we do scholars programs. So we basically have 3 ways that we're trying to cultivate around values, around people essentially being part of the bottom line, of our craft, and how do we grow this pie, like the Games for Change conference, in a way that we're proud of, right? That is more compelling than compulsive. So we have 3 types of scholars. So one are like our GGP scholars, and I see you right there. And so what they're about is compassion. So all of our GGP scholars actually do community service in underestimated communities, and everyone's eligible, whatever your extraction, wherever you're from Europe or Africa or Antarctica, everyone's in, as long as you do the work of helping the underestimated and are studying games, both. And the point is to infuse this room being our collective journey, with compassion. We have another set of scholars from like NYU and USC and Carnegie Mellon who are leaders. And they're called system scholars. They're the head of this club, that club, blah, 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 blah. Because that is also important. People who can help guide groups forward collectively to do something which is more than their individual capabilities. Our latest thing is the Collegiate Games Challenge. Now what this is, it's an attempt to form, I call it a tiramisu, okay, of top performing students, professors, I see you because me and Lien talked about this a lot, professors and people in this conventional industry who want to leave people better for the time in games, okay? And that could be better through learning all the aesthetics of play, learning, story, collaboration, education, financially healthier, whatever, but want to leave people healthier for the time. And so we've created this competition, which is merely a window through which we attract students across the axes of play, which, as I see it, which nowadays is not just development, but it's sentiment. Like there's a lot of young people devoted to just the sentiment around games, right? A lot of us have big feelings about games we've never played because of the sentiment people. The distribution of games, because now it's not just go to a Walmart or Target, but now distribution is a very nuanced thing, the ability to discover, access, and get to a game. And then of course, monetization, right? And that's monetization, not just of cash or euros, but of time, like the attention economy of which we're all a part with our interactive spaces. And so, you know, the challenge opportunity, I like to say, is how do we welcome people who see us as an investment and not a tax? And I'll go political for a second. People are being taxed right now across gender, place of origin, socioeconomic, ball, it's happening. I'm from LA, it's happening every day, a big tax. And it's even more important now that we invest in folks, right? That we, you know, have their KPI growth across whatever, but that we see them as a potential investment and not just something to pay to put out the fire. So anyway, that's what I'm about. That's what we're doing. In a sort of marketing sense, we're giving away $90,000 in arcade machines, but that's not the point. The point is to build community so that we can have rooms like this, but like year round, like not like Brigadoon, but like we just hang out. Oh, sorry, is that too deep a cut? Sorry. For those of you at home, Brigadoon's a music, anyway, I won't explain. But Google it, point being, so that we could be more systemic, like the dominant narrative. Like what we're experiencing in America right now is a dominant narrative which is systemic. That's why it's happening all over, not event-driven. You know what I mean? Like it's not like a program or an event. It is a system, and we must also build systems. That's what we're trying to do for us. That's it.
That's it.
That's a long
lot.
It's a lot.
Important work.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's so special about this panel is that it's first of all about Brenda Romero's work, and how she's inspired all of us, but also me personally, because my first book, inside of it, had a chapter by Brenda on one of her games, Tran. And that book and her part in that has really like pushed me on my own trajectory in a way that I want to also inspire the people in the world beyond, right? Just how she inspired me. And one of the ways that I'm doing that, I created this game with the World Health Organization. It's called My 5 Moments, the Game. It's about hand hygiene and teaching nurses and doctors about when and how to use hand hygiene in a clinical space. And it could have been like a really boring game, but I wanted to infuse it with hearts, quite literally, because there are aliens in there and you take care of them and you even go on quests for them, helping them take care of their pets. And when you help them, they actually will give you lots of hearts that come out and you can earn extra love from them. And so that feeling, even in my own games, of creating a culture of inspiration was really important to me. And by the way, if you want to play this game, it's free online and accessible to everyone, only on browsers, so not on mobile yet. But please email me and I'll get you the link for that.
So I have 2 slides showing, as mentioned, I've been prototyping, right, as I've been working on the documentary. And so trying to encourage students to tell more of their stories through games. We watch parts and clips of the documentary, and then students actually were here from a previous Games for Change Next Gen, so these were high school students, after watching clips, deciding to gather together and to create their own game. And then I did another workshop down, co-sponsored by Immigrant Social Services down in Chinatown. Now, even though Immigrant Social Services does work with the Chinese American population predominantly, this workshop was open to people throughout New York City, and outside. So we had people coming in from Westchester and from Queens and other boroughs, meeting and deciding what kind of games can we make. So the high school students, in this case, they banded together and decided to make a game about inflation, talking about things that really matter to them.
Right. So also for most of my projects, all my projects should be linked from my website, mattersatplay.com, which the QR code's missing. But I also wanted to share my personal story. I started, went to grad school here at Parsons, so I'm back in my old neighborhood, academic neighborhood, and I felt like my home, really. This is where I discovered Games for Change, like designing them, the conference itself, and I've been familiar with Brenda's works for about the last 15 years or so, and was a bit starstruck meeting Brenda in South by Southwest 2013, and even went to lunch with her thanks to Colleen Macklin. I just finished my thesis. Colleen was my advisor, and got to go to lunch with her after she'd done this presentation on Jiro Dreams of Sushi. At the time, she was doing research on fine dining chefs and how game designers can be inspired by them, and I'm still trying to unlock that ability to use expense fine dining for my research. It was an inspirational talk, but that was like boss level. So I've been very familiar with the Mechanic is the Message, Tran, Middle Passage. She also another one about the Irish famine, and to say I feel like they've inspired me to pursue this. That I saw in Brenda and Colleen, especially as women in games, but also for games for social impact, that maybe I could do this too. And 15 years ago, when I was in grad school, definitely I actually literally said I wasn't going to do games because I thought games were a certain thing. But I really see myself as a systems designer, and I wanted to do more humanitarian design. And so I was able to do that starting grad school, and now I've created a career as an academic to do that. So just to say also, these are just some of the topics that I've made games about. And if you're thinking you can make a game about that, I didn't know that before I did it, but apparently I've done things about criminalization of condoms with Open Society Foundations, and my MFA thesis was about the shelter release process for unaccompanied immigrant minors. So those who are in the custody of the Office of Refugee Resettlement, how do they navigate that system? And I did it through an analog tabletop game. One, because they didn't necessarily have digital literacy or even access to technology, and so they can understand, the components of what go into applying for and hopefully getting released from the shelter. And so I like to say, through my own work, I'm inspiring next generation in general, but also my students, because they see the work that I'm doing. They understand that games aren't necessarily just for entertainment, and that you can make games about a diverse set of topics, including advocating for decriminalizing petty offenses. And the project I mentioned earlier, Reckoning with Redress, is actually about the reparations movement, where the Japanese Americans testified and asked for reparations and apology from the U.S. government for the unjust incarceration in the 1940s. So I think you can go to the next slide. So on my own work, I have students working with me in my lab, Matters at Play, but also in the classroom on different social impact topics. And so I do that with my own work, where I have my own client partner work, as well as I bring client partners into the classroom, so they work on it as student assistantships, as well as in the classroom. So one example is when I, in my Games with a Purpose course, we partnered with World Wildlife Fund, the U.S. headquarters, and one of the campaigns they were doing at the time was around reducing plastics in nature. And so that was a provided design brief, and students learned about ghost gear, so fishing equipment that gets disposed of in the ocean and is obviously harmful to the ecosystem. And so they made a game about that. And then in another course, I had advertising students. So they were, I let them choose what they wanted to work on. So as advertising students, they made a party-style game to raise awareness for and to encourage future generations of advertising students to think more about diversity and representation in the ads that they make.
Oh, take us in here. Bring your identities into work and how we inspire students and others through our game design. Oh, just talk about it. Do I have a slide? I want a slide.
Oh, you're asking. You're asking.
Oh, I'm asking the question. So, got it. I get it. Okay, got it.
Slides for you.
Oh my gosh, go off, queen. Okay, so what we're going to talk about is bringing your own identities into our work and how we inspire students through our game design, which we've been talking about this entire time in some ways. Who do we begin with? With a clip, of course. By the way, as this clip begins, this is really sort of meta, but this movie is being made right now. And so, I think you've picked up by now that Tree is the most. I mean, you're all the most, but it'd be like a triple tie of the most. And she's making a movie about Brenda, who was the most before we were all here to even afford us this space. But still, we need to invest in systems the same way that we invest in like the zombie apocalypse and games with guns about World War II in these stories, right? So that we can thrive. And so Tree's gonna tell you at some point about how to invest in this film so that it can exist, right? So the media can exist of us telling our own stories where you're holding the camera.
Thanks. So this clip is, as you can see, it's with Brenda and Mesa together, working on something games adjacent.
I know what I'm doing.
I don't doubt
I
it.
think.
John doesn't like symmetrical designs on his jackets.
Why not?
Because he doesn't like designing levels in a symmetrical way.
Should you ever get like bored of making jackets?
Nope.
Oh.
No, it's fun. It's fun because you build them up and then you get to see them on the stage, and it's really cool. It's just creative like anything else.
Does it look all right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it does. The Yaki colors, the colors on the sleeve of that jacket are the colors of the Yaki Nation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if he wants me to make a sort of a Doom jacket next, but I need to get. Yeah, I want to do a jacket where there's like a big floating hole. I enjoy doing it. It's just fun for me because I know what he likes and I know his personality.
Yeah.
I have no interest in selling them. They take a long time to make.
Oh, there we go.
So after I showed a clip like that and others, in another game design workshop, the high school students decided to be quite vulnerable with each other. These were students who didn't know each other prior to meeting on a Saturday for a 3-hour sequential game design workshop. And they decided to do a board game about the pressures of being in high school. So it was, yeah, I thought it was really interesting to see them work together and collaborate.
Yeah, so as I said, I did the MFA in design technology here at Parsons, and my MFA thesis was that tabletop game for unaccompanied immigrant minors. A lot of my work is on immigrationgames.com in that space, and so that game has been used in shelters as well as in college classrooms to talk about immigration and American studies and so forth. But recently, so I should go back. In 2021, I started my professorship at DePaul University of Chicago, and I moved there and discovered the TEACH Act had just been passed by the Illinois School Board, which is mandating, I put in quotes, mandating teaching Asian American history in K-12 education. And I had the opportunity to apply for research leave and and that was the scope. I was like, how can interactivity and games be used to teach Asian American history? As an Asian American woman who was born, raised, and educated in the U.S., I know very little about Asian American history. And so I took that opportunity, the research leave, to explore this. And one of the things I discovered is the original dreamer, the person who inspired the DREAM Act, is Theresa Loong. Her family is originally from Korea. She was born in Brazil. Her brother was born in Chicago because they had come and moved, and she's from Chicago. And so I have been working on a visual novel about her story. That's a QR code to the project site. And so you know, it's not, again, I will keep saying this. I often tell other people's stories, but it's important to connect with those people to make sure that it's an authentic representation of their story. And so Theresa's supportive of this project. We've talked. She's seen many iterations of it and given feedback on it. She was almost going to be here today, but she had a conflict. But just wanted to share. The next slide is a clip from the project. But yeah, it's in beta right now, so you're welcome to play it. Give me feedback. Yeah, it should work.
I need some help to activate.
So it's not. Yeah. So it's not. So as an Asian American person, also making sure we're telling important Asian American stories. And I normally ask people if you are familiar with who the first streamer might be. No one ever guesses that they're Asian or from Chicago. So just to say, you don't have to be Asian American or undocumented to connect with her story, but it's also an important history that it's almost 25 years since the first DREAM Act was proposed, and it still hasn't passed, but there's a lot that we can do as allies, and so if you keep playing and go to the site, you'll learn more about that.
So one of the things that I find really meaningful, and the students seem to find really meaningful too, is bringing them into the research that I'm doing. I only teach undergrads, so it's not typical that undergrads get access to doing like real world design work and real world research. So one of the projects that we're working on is about a game called Quandary, which is actually won best game at Games for Change. Woo! And it was amazing game. We're doing, and right there, by the way, is Shelley, who is the co-founder and the person who started it all. And so we're working on research for a new episode of Quandary, which, by the way, is free and available for all students in the world to play and learn about ethics. And so it's a new episode on the ethics of AI and also a chatbot that we're developing. So we're really excited, and the students are really excited about doing research on that. I also just finished doing research with my students on a project on online multiplayer games and understanding the biases that affect us when we're playing. So what we did was we played with different usernames, like proud to be Chinese, proud to be Mexican, proud to be Muslim, proud to be Jewish, and tried to understand what kinds of biases we were seeing in these real games like Fortnite and Valorant and Overwatch 2, and we published on that. So if you're interested in that study, please let me know. And my students were integral in being co-researchers with me on that. But also announcing today, I have a new venture of a new company that I'm doing on the side called Dream Interactive Design, and we work on game simulations and e-learning for social impact. And we've been working on a lot of different kinds of projects for NGOs and corporations that want to make a difference. So please feel free to use that QR code to find out more about that. Thank you.
Oh, me.
Yes, a couple slides, because we're talking about both how to inspire, right? And yes.
Well, I'm inspired by that. I want to use, so I'm the director of ethics at USC now, so I can just, Quandary, come on over. I'm going to make it some curriculum. You might become academic canon on the West Side. That's awesome. Okay, I'm bringing those thoughts to life. So high score, so for me, so my career started more in assimilation than queerness. So I was in the Bronado, so I was a designer on Madden football. It's like deep Bronado mainstream games. And now, many years later, there's documentaries about this work, and it's really interesting because a big part of the story now is about bringing identity to life, in games. And so, for me, there's like a lot of coverage about like there being black people in Madden. I'm a black person, and back in the day, the players could only be one color, and we went full make them all black. But what was more interesting to me, and I just tell you the truth because we're all family here, was actually doing Create a Player. Because Create a Player was about bringing everyone in the game in a persistent way, right? Like sort of as a metaphor, there's these systems of which we are not a part, which are not designed by us. And it's only by inserting ourselves that we're able to exist in our own fully realized selves. Maybe this is familiar to some of you who are not default in all the games you play. And this is Create a Player. And so to me, right, that is, what has the most meaning, right? Because in fact, it was freed of race and gender and all these biases. A funny thing, it's not about high score, so I do a lot of VR, like I don't know if any of you VR chat or whatever, but so VR chat, you go in, you can be anybody you want. You can be a samurai or a Jedi or a soda can, doesn't matter. But the point being that for me, it disrupts basic systems of like racism, sexism, homophobia. I can literally go into a game world and just by changing my avatar, have a wildly different experience walking the earth. It's really cool. And so I just think about that, in games, and in like the work, when I'm like learning about your work, how powerful it is when you let other people hold the camera, okay? And the stories which are told and things we're able to support. And I know I was plugging this great film, Brenda Romero film plug, but also for those of you who went to the talk earlier with Carla Reyes, you guys go to the Carla talk? Carla Reyes, like she's got a game called Take Us North, right? Which is a story of people trying to find freedom in America, but told from their point of view, okay? So not told as when you watch the news, which is not their point of view, right? It is them as object, right? As subject matter. It is like their voice, their creativity, their journey. And I don't know, I just think about how important it is in these panels, right? And in our games and in the ways that we're documented to be our whole selves. Because that actually is, a part of the story. It is different that you are the director. It is different that you're making the story of the first streamer. It is different that you're guiding our discussion of ethics, right? Like it matters, period. I don't know, that's how I feel. And that's me. It's funny. So this story, because people, okay, it's so interesting because like there's these snippets, right? But I'll just explain it in short, or I'll just explain it. For me, and I say the games start in the same place. It's sort of what I'm talking about in VR. Like in games, we agree to a set of rules together, right? It could be Parcheesi or Call of Duty or Grand Theft, doesn't matter, right? We all agree there's gonna be the same set of rules, which I feel in my positionality is a refreshing change of pace, right? I can project onto other people in their, it's fine, it's just a phone. I can project onto other people in their sort of uniqueness, right? And it's so funny because like it's Pride. Happy Pride for those of you who celebrate. I know you're out there, but Pride to me is about your uniqueness being additive, right? So like when I see the work, like when I see your work, right? Like your uniqueness is actually additive to the work. It's not just flat subject matter as observed, right? You're like, oh, and I infuse my own perspective and excellence and right? And games are a place where we recalibrate everyone and go, oh, we're gonna actually play fair for a moment. And then you're able to be additive with whoever you are. And that's why I guess games mean so much to me. And that's why creating games and creating systems and all of this to me is like the same subject, right? Because I feel like we're all doing the same thing, right? And we found platforms and ways of expressing ourselves where we are default and created classrooms where our students are default so that then they can, flourish. Questions? It's you.
So I think we might be a little over time, but I heard that we can keep the room
Abundance.
if we want to. So if you do have questions, we'd love to hear from you. If you need to go to another talk, though, that's awesome too. So feel free to stay and ask questions, or feel free to whatever you're comfortable with.
We'll be here.
We'll be here.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll just say one thing also.
Yeah.
And I'll project. Okay, this is me. You can always add me on LinkedIn if you want to ask stuff asymmetrically. Because once again, sometimes this like performance in front of a group thing is not the vibe. And you're like, I want to ask a question, but I just want to, chop it up. I don't want to, perform. So I won't, y'all should, however you like to be communicated with. But like, I would just say for me, just add me on LinkedIn or Insta or whatever. And we can always chop it up offline if that's
add
better.
all of us, because we want to hear from all of you.
Yeah.
So we all do.
Also, it fills our LinkedIn with awesome people, which always feels good because there's lots of people who are just trying to sell us stuff all the time. And so actually seeing familiar faces like I was at Games for Change actually gives me a different kind of dopamine hit on my LinkedIn.
Right. And just say, Kat keeps, all your work you say is available for free. So is mine. I didn't say that. I forgot to say it. But like we really value the work that we do, and we're fortunate to be in positions where we can make it available for free. So go find them, use them, play them. They're free. But I also wanted to plug, because I think Theresa has not said this, tomorrow.
Oh yeah, tomorrow.
Is at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
Is the kind of a rough cut of the documentary screening. So
Main stage.
on the main
the full
stage, so you want to see
one,
the whole, it's not the final, but a long, about 50 some minutes version? No, 30, a shorter version. I've seen the longer version, but it's me a 30-minute version of the doc. So if you want to see more of it, it'll be tomorrow at 1.
Yay!
Do we have any questions or comments? Go for it.
How old were you guys when you got into video game design, and how did you get into it?
I'm happy to go for. Okay, so I was in my late 20s, mid to late 20s. And I went to grad school here at Parsons, and I literally said, I'm open to everything but games, because I literally thought games were like a certain type of game. And I realized when I went to grad school, Nick Fortuna was floating around here, but my now husband was taking game design with Nick Fortuna, and I was play testing his games, and I was like, oh, this is fun. I'm going to take that class, and then ended up taking humanitarian design class at the same time, and made my first game I basically collaborated on was a Games for Change type game. And then I realized, I'm a systems thinker. I've been playing games my whole life, and I'm not playing those games, so I am a gamer. So I still kind of struggle with calling myself a gamer, even though I literally teach game design, and I am a gamer, and I make games. But like,
And the chair of the department.
I'm the chair of the department, yes. But like, there was a stigma, or a certain stereotype that was out there. And so we are proving that that is not the case, right? Brenda as well. But yeah, so later, I was really into technology. I did IT and like hated IT and was like, oh, creative practice, yay, okay.
Well, I am a proud gamer, even with the
Dr. Gamer
stigma. Yeah, even with the stigma. But I never realized that I could make them. Like I always was so inspired by gaming, and I've been playing games since I got a Atari 2600 back. But I never realized I could make games. But I loved to teach, and I loved the power of media to educate. And so I went to MIT thinking I was going to do all kinds of media, including film, including web, including everything. But then I was just so enthralled with the idea of making games, and I made my first game there. I was 25, and it was one of the first location-based education games called Reliving the Revolution, and it taught history in the actual site of the Battle of Lexington. And that sent me on a trajectory of continuing to create interactive experiences, and then eventually going back and deciding, hey, I want to make a games program, the kind of program that I wish I had when I was younger, and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So that's what I did, and that's what I'm still doing.
Briefly, I created like a maze game when I was in 7th or 8th grade. And then one of my first jobs was in book publishing, but also in what was called electronic publishing. So I was about 23, and it wasn't my own game, but I was editing a multi-user player game. So in addition to serious games, I've also been a consulting producer on a game for The Walking Dead and a game for Breaking Bad. So we can hold these, right? We can hold serious games and more commercial entertainment games, and just follow our passions, right? And then I've also worked on interactive experiences for museums and science applications as well. So they're games.
Yeah, it's so yay! It's awesome. You're also awesome. Yeah, a little different. I've made games all my life, like forever, ever. Like there was never a before time. I think that sort of like I alluded to, like games were a survival mechanism for me, even as a little kid, because I felt a sense of truth and safety in games that I did not feel in the world around me. God, I can't help but see this from a colonial point of view, though, when I hear our stories. Okay, so colonization. We are like from the Star Trek era, and so we are all like hyperachievers who had a warp drive. That's why we didn't go to camp like rowing camp. We went to science camp together, like literally like curated science fair, Kumite, all-star camp together, and then Harvard, because whatever, right? But that's a very colonized point of view, right? Like, and we were identified by the dominant narrative as being worthy of more resources so that we could thrive, right? However, now we're in these positions of power where we're like, oh, no. How do we create whole, healthy places for you not to only just create games, but to also be, right? Like, not to make them to perform for us, but to whatever you're into, which is a different narrative than I believe I grew up with. I won't project on you, but like I grew up with a go make Madden narrative, right? For someone else, not a dreamer or like a first dreamer story or a Brenda Romero's movie needs to be made or ethical thought about games. And I'm proud to be like, well, I love it because actually yours is a little like Schoolhouse Rock. I'm kind of into it. Like, Schoolhouse Rock? No? Okay, anyway. You know what I mean, right? Where you're affirming all these values and identities. That's like a new thing that young people, like I'm projecting that you're young, like young people like you get to grow up in an ecosystem that can exist and be, which is a whole vibe, which we need to support, which is only possible because Susanna and people create systems for us to thrive in order to serve the next generation. Your question's very loaded, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Is like, because we were getting into games not at a specific age, but at a specific time in society. And that's the point, like when you got it. So I got into games in the 70s. You got into games, I guess, in the 80s, right? And this is different. It's very different than the 20s today, where there's like programs and you go to DePaul and be amazing. Or Marist, whatever.
For sure.
Or Parsons.
Yeah.
Or USC.
Or you okay.
Great.
It's a great question.
So I'm wondering about, so you guys showcased the games that were made for like the World Health Organization, games that were like picking up plastic in the ocean. I'm just wondering how to find these opportunities to make these games, because I think they exist in such a different space.
I have an answer for this one. You're here, okay? If you leave this day without finding it, you might not find it because you're literally in like floors upon floors of people who are devoted to doing healthier behaviors, right? Like, so if I were you, I would literally add every single person, like, and then sort it out later.
And
because
connect
they're
with
here.
us too.
Yeah,
I
they're
mean,
here.
Connect with us because
I guess it's more like if I'm just like online scrolling through like LinkedIn job posts, it's mostly like commercial games, right? So like where do these opportunities? Like what are the funnels? Like where are they?
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like the LinkedIn job posting, which is owned by Microsoft, is not designed for you to achieve the goal that you've identified. However, you are literally at Games for Change. Like you're literally here. You do not need to scroll. You could scroll through the app. Did you ever have the Meet to Match app? If you looked through that app, you would actually find what you were looking for literally in the app, which is designed for all of us to meet to match. It's in the name, for us to find people who will help us go forward.
Yeah, so I will say my MFA thesis for Parsons was a product of Games for Change listserv. I don't think it's actually as active as it was then, but it was pretty active in 2011, 2012. And an immigration lawyer had posted to the Games for Change list and was like, I don't know anything about games. I'm a former educator, now a pro bono lawyer, and I think games would be really meaningful to this undocumented youth population. And I knew nothing about immigration and definitely not about the law. In fact, we didn't do Know Your Rights because it's content. You know, you want to act like you're practice or be accused of practicing law when you're not barred. Anyway, so I ended up doing something that was not in that realm. But that's how that game came to be. I was like, I'm a student I was literally a grad student who was like, I need a topic, and this it kind of fell in my lap, and it was actually really hard because she didn't know games, I didn't know anything about the law, and I had to do a lot of kind of back to the tandem transformational game design, did some observation, talked to people, and so what we thought was going to be Know Your Rights ended up being about the shelter release process because that kept coming up as a need, that this topic that these young people were very confused by, overwhelmed by, they're by themselves, they're unaccompanied, whether sometimes they were separated from their guardians. How do they navigate that system? So that was the equivalent, kind of back to where, the first question, like how I got my start. Like I was active on the Games for Change listserv as a grad student. So today, I guess that's this meet, match, whatever it's called. But yeah.
No, but I mean, also like I've been going to Games for Change for like 20 years, and so going to Games for Change, I met all these amazing people. The people here, by the way, are like the awesomest people. Like they're really amazing. They're so. They have all the stuff, right? They've got the mind, the creative mind, the interest in games, but the heart also, and that mix is so rare. So look around. But also, so because of going to Games for Change, I was recommended and connected with someone at the ADL and did that game jam, that identity game jam that you saw with the empathy principles, and that got the interest of a professor in Nigeria at Lagos Business School. Then I worked with them on a Templeton grant where we created a game, Connected Spaces, about Nigerian youth and biases there. But we also created a Nigerian game jam. And that then led me to working at WHO as a consultant, designing games for them for quite a while. 4 years, and so that's now here I am, right? So I mean that it started with being part of this Games for Change ecosystem, as you've all been talking about. I mean this is it. This is the amazing space that's been created.
I can't help but do a plug because we're talking about the law. There's a very fun game called Disbarred If you're not familiar, it's a very fun game because the law is affecting all of us nowadays, so it's time to have some conversations about it before the law comes for you. Might as well talk about it. What? It's haha real, like haha outside. But like, and so just as a recommendation, it's called Disbarred. It's fun, but it's also about the law. And it's important to start to have these conversations somehow, like the same way we'd worry about financial literacy. I think that legal literacy is something that needs to be, what's it called? Made safer for people? I don't know, not a shamey thing. Like you should start to learn.
Yeah, to be more accessible.
It should be more accessible, like yes, because it's now.
Yeah, and there's a lot of unjust laws out there, which Fines and Fees Justice Center was advocating to fix. You had a question?
Yeah, did you want
Well, we actually are at
Oh,
time.
we are at time.
So we're very happy to stay and chat a bit, but we really wanted to thank the team who
Yeah.
are helping to please put together.
Oh, back there, yeah, second team back there, production
so
squad.
much. Yes. Thank
Oh,
you,
and production
Matthew.
squad, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And yeah, please talk to us later. Really appreciate your time.